So the very first step here is we want to create a metaphorical space for you. So I've got several suggestions here, and I'll just read these through, and you think about where you'd like to put your space, your crucible, that you'll begin to create this crucible. So because the crucible will be a place where you can think and feel and really be present to you, we'll want a place where for you it means safety, it means comfort, it means reflectiveness, and it has all the qualities of specialness for you. So as a menu list, it could be on top of a mountain, it could be on a beach, it could be a beautiful quiet lake, it could be inside of a chapel or a church, it could be in the middle of the universe. It could be in a bubble, it could be in a golden space. So these are images that gives you a place where to build up this crucible where you can hold space for yourself and others. Do any of those strike you, or there's a...
I have an image of sitting under a Bodhi tree.
Okay, okay. So,
or being the Bodhi tree.
Being the Bodhi tree, okay. So just inside, I want you to be really clear, to make some vivid images and sounds and sensations and feels of that space, and just enter into that space so that this is the space we're working with, and whatever that means to you, the richness of it, you'll begin there. So, you've got that?
Just about.
Okay. So seeing what you see, notice the colors, notice the brightness or the dimness, the softness of the colors, whatever works best. If there's any sound that really supports you in the space. And as you be the tree or just experience, and you can shift this as we go through the process. Okay. So what we want to do is to create the structure of this space with walls of unconditional positive regard. So yesterday you thought about something maybe awesome, just incredible, just where you recognize ultimate value and worth and significance. And so if you take that feeling, do you have a sense of that? And if you bring that back to yourself, and maybe with the words unconditional, positive, regard, worth, dignity, and just let that be the walls around you in this space so that whatever comes in, it never calls that into question. Because the very crucible is made out of this material, of human sacredness, human value, human worth. Okay?
I like it.
Okay. So as you feel in there, you may want to let that message now get into your body and coach your body to know that all around me are these walls of worth, and that's the atmosphere I'm living in. That's the mental context I'm in, that whatever happens, whatever comes, whatever I bring in, never calls that into question. This is the very fabric of this space. Unconditional, positive regard. I'm a somebody. I mount. I count. There's that sacredness inside that can't be called into question. Okay. Yesterday we asked you to think about something you accept. And do you have your cues for acceptance?
I do.
Okay. So if I saw you doing your gesture of acceptance.
I'd be with my arms out.
Okay. Okay. So. Okay, this is your sense of acknowledging what is. Okay. So as you think about some things that once you didn't accept, and that maybe you got yourself riled up about, but now you just accept.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so with the feeling of acceptance, notice the breath of acceptance, the eyes of acceptance, acknowledging what is, no matter if you like it or dislike it, and the muscle tension of that. And as you drive that into your neurology over and over with that gesture, just to accept that whatever comes in, I just accept. Acknowledge this is what is. And as you find words for yourself, this is what is. I say to myself, I'm a friend of reality. I won't make myself an enemy of reality. So as you find words that support you, and then drive that in. So if you want to put that down so that you can just really
Thank you.
feel that again and
That
again.
feels better.
Okay. And so as you do accept.
Yep.
Okay. And so this is welcoming in, even though you don't like it, and just accepting. The state of witnessing. The state of witnessing. What for you really conveys a sense of just observing?
What for me creates
Yeah.
that? Probably in my coaching role.
Okay.
That non-judgmental awareness.
Okay.
It's just, this is what I'm present to.
Okay. Okay. So notice the feelings, the muscle tension, the state that you're in when you're just witnessing. I kind of stretch out my neck. I notice it's almost like I'm just peering over. I'm not involved.
Yeah, I seem to cock my head to the side.
Okay.
Like, oh.
Okay. And so just notice when you witness, and you may want to scan your life for times when you've just witnessed, when you saw something, but people didn't know you were even seeing them. You're just witnessing.
Little peek.
Peeking. One of the ways I do it is with the imagine I'm 2 stories up in a mall and just watching all the people walking around, and it's like I can see people meeting each other or having a little argument or buying something, and a lot of activity, but I'm just observing. And so that sense of observing, just witnessing what is, because when we bring some things into the crucible, we'll just want to observe. And so if you have your way of doing that, and cueing yourself to just observe and to accept, so we want to put those two together now as we start integrating it. So I accept it because I'm just observing. I'm just observing so that I can accept and acknowledge. And it has nothing to do with who I am and my value, my sacredness. That's unconditional.
So nothing's demanded of me at that moment.
So
Just
if
observe.
those are your words, nothing is demanded of me. Nothing is demanded of me, if that helps, so that you can just observe. Okay? Anything else is coming to you, words, images, memories, that would support you just accepting and witnessing.
I mean, like being in an airplane, realizing
Okay.
how far up you are, looking out.
Okay.
Looking
so,
at the landscape.
So looking out. Okay. So all of these things will help to integrate them. So if you imagine on the airplane just looking out, and you can accept whatever you're seeing in the terrain. And you can just witness it, knowing that you're perfectly safe. You have the right to be you and your uniqueness and your value, your sacredness, all the things that makes your value just a given. Okay? Okay. Yesterday we started working on appreciation. So as you think about something you really appreciate, when you start, what makes you melt in appreciation? And you don't have to say it out loud.
Thank you.
Thank
Don't
you.
want everybody to get rattled here.
So as you think of that now, and just feel that, and just notice this state. The other states have been gentle and soft and safe, just that knowing I'm okay, and that accepting, and that witnessing, but now we're going to bring some real energy to it, appreciation. Okay, so notice that. Notice the face of appreciation, the eyes of appreciation, the breath, the heart, the muscle tension, maybe even the voice when you appreciate. And so to make this richer, as you just scan other things in your life that you appreciate, that you just melt in appreciation, how much do you have that sense of appreciation?
On a scale from 1 to 10, I would say a 10.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
really
it's up there. Yeah.
Okay, okay. What is the physiology that can be your self-anchor for appreciation?
Well, it seems to go,
Okay,
it goes here. Yeah.
okay. And when you put your hand there?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
probably right there.
okay. So as you anchor this with appreciation, let's integrate that with what we've got so far. We've got these walls, this space, this territory that really protects you, that unconditional positive regard, just ultimate worth and value. And in here you can just witness and just accept and just observe things. And as you do that, now you can make this world rich and just scan everything, the things you're witnessing, things you're accepting, and just with appreciation. So as you just practice that a minute, just scanning the world with appreciation and using that anchor just because we want to fill it up with that energy. So you'll sacralize everything. Appreciating getting up in the morning, awaking, seeing sunshine or clouds, and having breakfast, and meeting your loved ones, and walking through your day, and driving. Just if everything can be appreciated in some way.
Just living a life you love.
Okay, living the life you love. Okay, and as you find words like that, if you store those so that they become part of this anchor, living the life I love. So just be with that. Let all that integrate so that you've got this protective area in which you're doing something really wonderful, accepting and witnessing, and now looking for value, looking for worth, for significance, for meaning, and using those powers of meaning. How can this be meaningful? How can that be? What would be the most empowering meaning, belief, decision, intention I could give to this? Okay?
I have it.
Okay. Finding a place where you speak the truth. We may have to start with a memory imagination when you spoke the truth and it was hard to say. We can soften it a little bit as we go. Or it may be sometime when you spoke truth, probably easier if you think of when you spoke truth to someone else, when you said what is, and just put it in words. And as you think about just that, and then setting that as a frame, because if we're going to accept what is and not be an enemy to reality, then saying what is. And as you think about that, and maybe the permission, maybe you need more permission I give myself permission to speak what is, to say the truth. My metaphor is the mirror. That a mirror, if it's a clean mirror, if it's not a distorted mirror, it just reflects back what is, and it's ruthlessly honest.
What it is and what it's not. Right.
So you may have a metaphor of something like that.
Well, understanding the mirror, that one I think really takes care of it.
Okay. So now imagine being in this space, witnessing, and
Although, excuse me, I need to change it.
okay.
Because I've got the Bodhi tree, so
Okay.
it's really the mirror with a little pond.
The pond.
Yeah.
The pond
Looking
becomes the
right,
mirror
right.
to reflect
Thank you.
back. Okay. Okay. Is it down here? Is that the best place for it?
Well, since I've got magician qualities, I would like to actually bring it up
Okay.
higher,
Okay.
like maybe like a portal.
Okay. A portal of this quiet pond that can reflect back whatever just is and exists in the world. Okay. Do you have full permission to look at it and let it be? Or do you need to give yourself more permission?
No, I think I do.
Okay. Okay. So starting with this space that is protected, has nothing to do that can threaten yourself, and now the skill of witnessing or accepting, and then just witnessing and bringing appreciation to it, and now just looking at the portal to reflect back truth, reality. Okay. Okay. So as we put all of that together, let me invite you to close your eyes or just kind of go to this place of the Buddha tree and the pond and the reflection and all these resources. Just maybe for a moment, just let them spin around. The witnessing, the accepting, the looking out of the plane. Just let all these things, because they're part of your internal world that now can be resources. And we want them to just kind of spin around and then settle in places and in ways that really feel right for you, so that it brings out the best in you in these skills of sacralizing all the things that you find that are in your world, so that you can receive the truth and use it as a mirror to make whatever adjustments, whatever transformations, whatever renewals, And as it just spins around and settles in a way, settling it to where you feel so safe and so curious, so letting it integrate, so that maybe there's even one feeling or one gesture that can just pull all this together as your crucible. The place that you hold for yourself, for others, where no matter how hot the thoughts are, or boiling the needs, or strange the impulses, or whatever human stuff, human experience you bring in, you can just hold it, observing, witnessing, appreciating, and saying whatever is, knowing that at a higher level all of this will self-organize into the best resources for you and for others. So as that settles down, how's that?
That's nice.
Okay. Is there any objection at all within you of having this as a space that you can offer for yourself and others as a reflective time for transformation?
You had me so entranced. Ask the question again.
Any objection in you? Any
Any
part?
objection? No, apparently not. No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel aligned with this?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. So the part of your mind that creates things, your creative part that has put together all of these parts that may never have been in this particular sequence and order before, if that creative part will just take responsibility for making this richer and fuller and more powerful, more profound, so that the space you can hold for self and other in the days, the weeks of your life as you move out into your life, that creative part can also always looking to touch it up, to texture it a little bit more. Is that creative part of your mind willing to do that for you?
Absolutely, it is.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you kind of let that settle in and integrate, do you have a way of remembering this so that you can repeat this until it's just your space that you offer?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Unforgettable.
Well, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Michael. Wow, that was a good rush.
So, what we want to do is to think in terms of the process of creating this for yourself. Any questions on the process? In one sense, it's a simple metastating process of bringing these resources and putting them together.
The self-esteem portion, you just keep that one?
The self-esteem is a space and the texture, the fabric of reality of this space. So it's unconditional positive regard, or self-esteeming, or self-valuing. Okay. Ashton, did you have? Okay. So we're going to turn you loose to create this. You can see that we start by asking for a metaphor that helps you to find a place in your mind, and there's several things there that gives you something to start with. And if nothing really strikes you, just start with, one of those, and it's kind of your space as you start building that space.
Are these examples that you have? You got images, colon, and then under number one. Those are examples.
Just example. So we're building something. We're building a metaphor, using a metaphor to build this concept. Because the concept is, I'm going to be present to you. That's the concept that we're building. How to be fully present to you or present to myself. And metaphors seem to be powerful enough to create something that we can put everything together in it. So it can be like a beach, like a mountain, or a tree, or whatever. And so as you start thinking about that, using that metaphor, usually that helps. Now this went pretty quickly with Alex. She had pretty good access to a lot of these things. It may take you longer to get there. At each one, you want to stop and say, okay, now let's do something else. Let's talk about accepting. Now let's stop and talk about just witnessing. Now let's stop and talk about appreciating. Because you're going to get those, but once you get them, then start integrating them. So it's accepting so that you can witness. And you put those two together inside the space of your unconditional value. And then you add one more. So we're just layering it to coalesce so that all of these components are part of one thing, this space, this way of offering presence to self or other. Jim?
I was just thinking would be good to what you do in the part says, yeah, I have objections. For those
Okay.
people who haven't
So
experienced.
What was his question?
when a part has an objection and what to do. In NLP, when we say, are you fully aligned? I usually ask that question first. Are you fully aligned? And then if not, then okay, is there some facet, some part of you that this isn't okay yet? So when the objection comes up, then we're going to integrate that to find out what facet of you has some opposition or fear, and then we'll ask, well, what is that part, that facet of you trying to accomplish that's of positive value? So you'll ask the positive intentional question, what is it trying to do? And whatever that is, then we'll take that and integrate back in for that. And so if you have any difficulty with that, make sure, some of us will get around and help out with that one.
Well, going from there, because I'm thinking of this person, that what they would say there is it doesn't have an intention, it's just the truth. That I'm a schmuck, that I'm a, whatever. And because they have not gotten to that place of taking ownership of their feelings and beliefs and stuff. So what transition would you give there to help them with that?
So if somebody says, I'm just a schmuck, that's the truth. After you say, well, I know, but... yeah, we're going to face it now and accept it. I am a schmuck. I appreciate my smuckness. What I would do is to say, this information that you're just a schmuck, do you want to listen to it? Does it serve you well? Does it? And let's step back from that. Does this enhance you? Does this empower you? So we'll do all the quality control. And usually that enables the person to say, no, I don't. Are you willing to suspend that and put that aside so that we can go somewhere new and wonderful and give this a chance?
Because this person I'm thinking of, I've done those things, and they'll loop back around, because I'm still looking for that Achilles tendon, to work with this person, because yes, it's not serving me well. Nope, I don't want it. I agree with everything you're saying. She has a different set of values for other people, in the same situation, but it doesn't apply to her.
So this is where permission becomes really a key frame as a logical level, because if a person goes back to it, say, do you have permission to go here? To be unconditionally valued? Do you have permission? So I usually ask the person, go inside and just close your eyes and say these words. I give myself permission to be valuable, to be sacred, to be special, to be precious. Use these words. These are shocking words for a schmuck. and give yourself permission. Well, there'll probably be objections. I don't deserve this. And so the first thing I'll say, I want you to say that with a voice, and how well does it settle? The next question is, how many times do you need to say that until it settles really well? And these are presuppositional questions. So how well does that settle? Well, some, but not a lot. How many more times do you need to say that until it settles really well? What voice would make that settle even more powerfully? How loud do we need to get that voice, or how surround sound that voice so that it settles really? What else do you need to add inside of that? I give myself permission because I'm just a people like everybody else. I know how to do it there. I can now do it to myself, and I give myself that permission. And so I would set that up as a process to enable the person to begin to do that, even tasking them as homework. 5 times a day, you've got to stop and do five permissions. And just task them, because nobody else apparently has given them that message. And now they need to do that reparenting with that permission.
Yep. Michael, aren't what you're basically doing is attacking the structure of that schmuckness rather than the content of it? Mm-hmm. Right. So you go after the structure rather than the content.
Yeah.
To try and convince them they're not a schmuck, or all that. You attack the structure which they use to keep themselves in this schmuckness or whatever.
Yeah.
So give them 5 times. Yeah. Does it sink in? What voice? What does it look like in your head? That sort of thing. Who does the voice sound like? Right.
Yeah. And by doing that, a lot of times that'll fragment it. It'll fragment it so it doesn't exist as a whole.
Wonderful example of that, because it's a reframe of being a schmuck.
So glorious fallibility is a reframe of smugness. And one of the things we will bring into the crucible is our fallibility, so that we can be okay, just witness our fallibility, appreciate our fallibility. I appreciate my fallibility because it means I still have things to learn and grow. I'm not infallible. Because everybody I meet who's infallible, it means they can't learn anything more. So as we appreciate our fallibility, it means I'm still growing and learning and developing. So this is where appreciation as our meaning making, once we can just be with something. So acceptance and witnessing gives you the ability to be with something, and it's not about you. It's about an expression. Appreciation now brings value and meaning and significance to it, so that as a meaning maker, now I can just give it the most resourceful, rich meaning that's going to make this a rich space. And once it's a rich space, now I'm not afraid of the truth. I can speak the truth. Every time I say that, I think of Jack Nicholson in that movie, You Can't Handle the Truth. But then my mind switches off to that little toy thing, and the little toy thing in that movie that was mocking that movie about you can't stand the truth. My mind goes in movies. So then we speak the truth and just face whatever it is so that we can do something about it. So the transformation is it enables us now to have something emerge that's really transformational, as we can really deal with the things that we have to deal with. So is everybody ready? Merle.
Question on step 1 when you're creating the space. With the metaphor, are the images that you have, like prison, concentration camp, are those suggestions of creating that space, or is that pointing to something else?
Those have been crucibles for people, but if you're crucible, and that's why I say think of someone who loves you just unconditionally, or think about a beautiful place where you have time to reflect. So while Viktor Frankl was reflecting and Nelson Mandela was reflecting, I would suggest create the best place so that you want to go there.
Okay.
And because it'll convey safety, reflection, thoughtfulness, mindfulness, resourcefulness, developing. It'll convey all of those kinds of things. If a prison works for you, but it wouldn't be my first choice.
All right, thank you.
So grab a partner. We're going to give you 20 minutes each. 20 minutes each. So what went well? What went well for you? We'll do some troubleshooting in a moment, but what were the things that worked well? Because oftentimes as you describe that helps others to understand how to put this together. And because this is so important, your ability to be present to yourself, your ability to be present to someone else. So, Randa.
I found just the process of building the crucible to be a real, a state of being that is real power.
Okay.
And I don't want to say transcendental, but it was approaching that big, the field mind was huge.
Okay.
I was able to feel the field.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt a lot of energy also.
So he put out a lot of energy? Or
I put out a lot of energy when I was going through it.
okay. And that's the key. Because if you're feeling these states and bringing these feeling states to be now frames of references and integrating them with each other, then you're going to have an experience to where being present to your humanity or someone else's humanity. So the feeling is really the key. It's what we say in meta states is if the feeling is the key, the feeling of acceptance, the feeling of appreciation, the feeling of whatever you're metastating, that's what we're doing. We're reflexively using a feel to bring to another to integrate the two.
I've got on a really good analogy with talking with Lindsay. So for me, whenever you said, like yesterday, what's awe-inspiring for me, so it's being on the north rim of the Grand Canyon. I saw that, it was in the morning and the light coming up. And it's this odd twist where that's feeling so strong, that doesn't get diminished in any way when I think of other things. So I got into this, that's the Grand Canyon feeling. Look how awe-inspiring that is, but that's just a ditch. So if there's that much awe in just a ditch, how much awe should I have? Just a ditch. With water running through it.
That's great. Okay. Paul.
Well, I had some similar experience with Angela. Bringing me back, I had the looking out a balcony over Maui, the Pacific Ocean, the waves coming in, and every one of those, it kept bringing me back to that, and I just got into a trance, and I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to stay here.
Way to go, Angelo.
Yes. Good at listening.
I go to a place in the High Cascades called Heart Lake in my imagery, and it's a place that it just feels like I draw from the universe when I'm there. And I still have that feeling with me after Marcus got through with me just a few minutes ago. And I don't feel so much as I've given out energy as I have absorbed energy, which is really a wonderful feeling.
Okay. So absorbing energy from the universe.
And then us channeling that out, using it in different ways.
Okay.
Yeah, as I was adding myself to the crucible, we added the acceptance and appreciation, and then he was going to go to the ruthless honesty, and I said, wait a minute, let's go to the awe from our exercise from yesterday. So I wasn't done adding, the best of it.
Okay. So that's good because we do have to customize this for yourself with your metaphors, the things meaningful, significant, that work for you, and making sure that you have the pieces kind of in place because the sequence, the strategy is important. We usually put the truth-telling as the last thing once we have the foundation of witnessing and accepting, appreciating within inside the whole sphere of just unconditional positive regard. So the sequence and your strategy for how to get there is going to be critical. Jim?
Me do that to get a sense of where the other person is at is to ask them on a scale of 1 to 100, what is the level of this? Okay. And then work towards adding resources until they get into that 90 to 100 range.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So,
I was working and the lady, when we got to the point of using the crucible, I said, how does it make you feel? And the person was going, pace. And I just went on and did something else and then came back to it and got it when it looked like this.
Okay. Troubleshooting. What maybe didn't go as well as you want, that we need to do some troubleshooting so that you can continue building this so that you can have that space for yourself and others. Any?
Well, the question about the part of the metaphor of the crucible being a fragile structure itself. What does that speak to?
For me, it speaks to our fallibility. And the fact that no matter how grounded I get, and at times having these peak experiences, I'm still a fallible human being, and I can break. And so while I can take my fallibility and hold your space or hold my space, it's my human fallibility. And embracing our fallibility seems to be such a challenge for so many people, especially anybody who's got any kind of frame of perfectionism. Psychological perfectionism is usually built by parents who, whatever you do, they say, well, why didn't you get an A+ instead of just an A? And it's like, the message is, you could have done more. It could have been better. And so it's a discounting kind of a thing. Well, it's not enough yet. It's not enough yet, not enough yet. And if you got that frame, it's not enough, then you'll see it in procrastination. It's perfectionists who procrastinate. One more book, one more training, one more coaching session, because we think we're not. It's not good enough. So it's that frame, not good enough yet.
So it's an imperfection. It's an acceptance of imperfection.
Yeah. So perfectionism is the refusal to accept imperfection, and so the permission is I give myself permission to be imperfect, which will rage in someone who's got that. It's not good enough. And so once we set, I'm good enough with my fallibility to begin the process of growing and developing. So that's what the fragileness is. The fragileness is. And any of us can get into a fragile state with stress. Stress will put us there. And you live in some chronic stress, you can just be really ready to, there can be some easy brokenness. So recognizing that and protecting that in myself and in someone else so that we can be kinder, gentler. Gary?
Would you talk for a few moments on that coalescing effect and how you envision that working and how you introduce the issue?
Okay. We use the word coalescing in metastates to speak about the interface of states. So if I'm in one state, a good example might be if I'm in a learning state and I access a state of joy and I bring that fun, that joy, that delight to my state, and I set that as my frame so that the joy is about the learning. Coalescing means that the higher state is going to be coalescing down into the lower state, percolating down into the state, and as we run it over and over with repetition, eventually this state becomes what we call a gestalt state. That is, something higher emerges as a systemic process, as a gestalt state, and now I can't even separate the joy from the learning. Now it's joyful learning. And it's one thing, it's joyful learning. If you learn joyfully, if you have that joyful learning, you can't even pull it apart. It's all integrated, and it's like one. It operates like a single primary state, joyful learning. So it has coalesced. The coalescing now textures the state, so learning state is textured with joy. And if I bring passion to it and coalesce that, then it's passionately joyful learning state. Because the quality of my learning, if I ask the question, what's the quality of your learning state? Well, it's joyful, it's passionate. That this is the layering of levels of feelings, thoughts about a state, and so it textures it. What we're doing is taking the state of noticing and acknowledging, and we're bringing in that non-judgmentalness, so we just witness, and looking for value with appreciation, and speaking ruthlessly honest way. So we're texturing a state of just being present to someone with these resourceful states so that it coalesces into one thing. And then you experience it as just one thing, being present to. And you'll have your metaphors and your gestures, and it operates as one state. And so that's the coalescing process.
One other question I had is when we have this thing, we call it, that we're going to throw in the thing about it so that we don't like, or the issue, that we're going to bring the state of appreciation and awe to. Was there an expectation that we were going to do the ladder of meaning with that state before we brought those other states to it? Were we going to do something more with that?
Now, you're speaking about the exercise we just did with the crucible.
Right. Yeah.
This afternoon, I'm going to lead a process of getting you to use your crucible. So into the crucible, we're going to bring some things. So we're going to use the crucible later. Right now, hopefully, you've built it, and it's ready to be used. So the use of it will be this afternoon. And the next pages in your manual, we're going to go through needs and motions and challenges and problems and choices and just all kinds of things to bring in. And we'll use the crucible this afternoon. So the design of that exercise was not to use it, but just to build it and get it constructed well. So.
In the process, when we are working with a partner or client, and in the beginning uses the self-esteem, and the person has many complaints and is not able to see themselves and accepting. Not before affecting, it's just the self-esteem and appreciation, and you have to deal with that. What do you do in order to do the exercise in less time? Because it's like, for me, it's I have to deal with this before we get further with this.
So that's why we did the accepting, appreciating, esteeming pattern yesterday before we built this. So if a person has a hard time with this larger frame, that everything we're going to put inside this is going to be in the frame of that my innate value is just a given, and ultimately valuable, worthwhile, dignity, sacredness. So that would be I wouldn't do anything else until that is settled.
So in the future, we have to do this pattern first, and then this.
Have to do this pattern first. Yes.
You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. So yes, we have to settle the question about person and behavior. And if you find someone who has difficulty with that concept, that somehow their thinking, their emoting is them, I'll just run with that. So you're just a hunk of emotion. That's all you are. Just a hunk of vibrating emotion. What emotion? Anger, fear, inferiority. That's all you are, just a hunk of it. And so I'll just play with it and say, well, no, I'm more than, I don't believe you. What are you more than that emotion? And let them, you coach it out of them. That I'm a person, a human being with a sense that I need dignity and value and be respected. And so we coach it out of them. And sometimes we try too hard to help a person to feel good about them. And then the game is played, I'm going to help you. No. Well, go ahead and see. So if you change the game, they don't know how to play that one. Maybe you are just shit. And just play with them. Let them. If you say so, I'll just treat you that way from now on. Oh, you don't want to be treated that way? Okay. Now, why would you not want to be treated like shit? And let them tell you and coach it out of them. So sometimes we are too helpful. we're too compassionate. We want too much for them, and then it gets into that kind of the game. Same thing we talked about the suicide this morning. So your flexibility to shift and to play, and to realize it's all about frames. And the only problem they've got is some frame. So you align with them against that frame. So there were a few other. So any other? Okay, Richard.
Just what helps facilitate this coalescing? What makes the stir stick that stirs things up and sticks them together?
So, yeah.
Just the sequence, or is it?
Some of it is a sequence. So one of the things we illustrate in APG, the trainers who train APG, is think about these two states: being serious, being earnest, wanting something, and playful. So if we sequence serious about playing, well, sometimes we see some soccer moms or soccer dads at the games, and they're serious about this play. And the serious, because it's the higher frame will always govern and dominate and set the tone for the lower state. So it's serious play, and it's hardly play anymore. But if we have playfully serious, so I'm serious, but I'm playful. So now it textures playfulness into the earnestness, the seriousness. So that's a whole different state. So the sequence of which state do you put upon the other does make a difference. And so I think of a couple facets of the coalescing, and one is the grounding. So here's a state of learning, and the learning is about something, and this something is going to ground it in reality. So you're learning NLP, you're learning self-development, you're learning self-actualization, or neural. So as you think about that learning, you're thinking, what about that? Now, your learning, your curiosity, your wonderment about that, what do you think and feel about your curiosity? Maybe it's joyful curiosity, or playful curiosity, or passionate curiosity. So now that is about this state. So the aboutness changes. Once it's about that, now this other feeling is about this state. And so as we keep orienting that, and sometimes repeating the words back, so joyfully curious about your learning about that. And it just keeps putting it together, and eventually it becomes one thing, joyful learning, or whatever we're working with. So grounding it. So what we've done so far in this coalescing, and there is a diagram in your manuals. So this is a sequence that works for me. Now, it may not work exactly. You may want to change the sequence. This is where you customize your own meta-stating until it gestalts in just the right way for you. So when you're in the state, having your thoughts and feelings about whatever, and you're going to create a space for a person to be just with those thoughts and feelings, because at the primary level, that's what's going to happen. So if I'm with Eleanor, I'm just going to be present to Eleanor. And I'm going to be present to her thoughts, her feelings. Or if she's going to be a crucible for me, she's going to be present to me. And so present. But at higher levels, in the back of the mind, we're doing this so that there can be ruthless honesty between us. So that we can get to the truth and get to the heart of the matter. And above that is we're just going to witness that truth. We're not going to judge that truth. We're not going to evaluate that. We're just going to witness that truth. So just noticing, observing, seeing non-judgmentally in a neutral way. So we suspend meaning and just explore. So the witnessing, and above the witnessing, we're going to accept whatever we witness. We're just going to welcome it into our world, just notice it, acknowledge. And so we're going to do that. And above that, at a higher level, the whole purpose is to find meaning, and to find purpose, and to find significance, and find value. And so we're looking for appreciative place of how is this valuable. So the appreciation is about the acceptance about the witnessing is about the truth-telling and getting to the heart of the matter as we're just present. And so as we keep refining that over and over and finding a sequence that puts us really in a resourceful place, then it will operate as just one state when you're just present, and all these things in the back of the mind has set the frame, and this becomes now the mental world that you're in, the emotional world you're in. And so this creates that crucible of being present to person. So holding the referent and just keep repeating it, what drives it into neurology is repetition. So how I got typing into my neurology. I just repeated it, practiced it, and after a while it dropped out of awareness. So repetition will drive it into neurology. Intensity will. So the more you feel it, the more intense it is, that feeling can drive it in. So both repetition and intensity. And this is where, as you give it more meaning, more significance, that'll increase that intensity from the intentional standpoint, and that'll drive it in, and it'll get coalesced. I encourage people to gesture it, because then you can start to feel it in your body and coach your body to feel that idea. So the coalescing.
Found over years of practicing martial arts and Qigong is when you start to do this work and you do a posture, you're doing movement with that, and you start to feel the Qi, feel the energy, and that in combination with the breath inside as well.
Yeah.
At least that's been my experience.
Yeah. Well, we are neurosemantic in our very nature, that our neurology holds meaning. And once it habituates, then it's the way you are in the world. So that's what we're going after. Any other thing is, before we break for lunch, so far we've been building it up.
A question about the deficiency needs, and there's the ones of self, about value and love. Do you see the appreciation, acceptance, and awe pattern addressing those deficiency needs, or am I confusing two different things?
Yeah. Everybody's familiar with, I'm sure, the pyramid that Maslow created and the lower needs. And so it starts off with the survival needs. Then we've got the safety needs. We've got the social needs, love and affection. We've got the self needs, an easy way to remember it with the 4 S's there, these lower needs. These are needs that we share with all the higher animals. So the higher animals, the social animals, there's a pecking order, there's a dominance and compliance structure to it. Maslow's first studies in the 1930s was with Harlow, who did all the original studies with the chimpanzees. And he went up to Wisconsin and finished his doctorate studying, because he was a behaviorist at the time. And he studied the chimpanzees and dominance and submission. And then in the late 1930s, he began studying sexuality. He was the first person, I guess, in the world who studied female sexuality and was recognized as an expert. And Kinsey based all his original work upon what Maslow did. So Maslow had really gotten familiar with these lower needs. Well, the self needs is that need for that animals have, to be recognized, to be acknowledged, to feel like we count. So even the higher, dogs and animals have that sense. They have a primitive sense of self. So at this level, it's just that recognition that I'm seen. If you want to read a lot about that, Nathaniel Braden has written The Psychology of Self-Esteem and several other books talking about one of the basic needs we all have is to be seen. Because if you want to torture a human being or even an animal, act like the animal or the person is invisible and just never notice. And you'll drive a person or even an animal neurotic because we have a need to be seen, which is what can disenfranchise people when we treat them as non-existing. Because it's one of the most hurtful things, and it's just a lower need. So at this level, the sense of self is real primitive as a need, but we need to have a sense that I'm me and that I'm seen, and therefore included in community. But when we get to the higher needs, Maslow put self-actualization here. I'm blowing this out as a volcano. And we'll talk about that this afternoon and tomorrow. So the pyramid, which is static and stayed, which wasn't a good metaphor for needs, because needs are full of energy. So we're going to get this energy in here, but because with us, we have thoughts about our needs, thoughts about our emotions, thoughts about our impulses, thoughts about our sexuality, and those thoughts So if this is meaning, which comes out of here, once we start giving meaning to it, then we can semantically load it. And that's what we'll take into the... We're going to create the crucible right here just to let all this bubble up, and we're going to hold it there so that it can emerge into higher needs. And one of them is, as we move into self, to create self-dignity and self-sacredness and self-transcendence and self-forgetfulness, and so that the lower kind of self, the ego, can get out of the way. And we'll do self-transcendence through that. So it moves into, and now we're searching for contribution and beauty and order and truth and the higher being needs that we'll mention. So most people know the pyramid, and as a model, it was a beginning place, but I think the mistake that Maslow made was he used a metaphor that was so static, so still, it didn't move. So if you say, well, what do I do with a pyramid? I notice the levels. And I satisfy the lower so I can move to the higher. I satisfy the lower so I can move to the higher, and I get up there, and then I'm in that little tiny room up there of self-actualization. So we're gonna open that thing up and just let it explode, so that we can just now head for the stars and have some energy inside this pyramid, so it becomes a volcano. Because isn't that how we experience our lives? It's like a volcano. What's emerging, what's erupting, what's coming out. And some of it is our basic animal physicality, because we're physical. We're in a physical body and we have needs. And this is part of self-actualization, that I can give those needs and frame those needs so that it serves me and others well, instead of being afraid of them. So that's where we'll go this afternoon. So we will take lunch now, be back at 2:15, and we will begin to use the crucible.